What's up, guys? Today I'm going to be rebuilding. This is a Proform 650. I had one of these before. I believe they're actually made by Quick Fuel for Proform. Real nice carburetor. This is what you would call a 4150 series carburetor. This is your standard bread and butter double pumper based on the Holley design. So your typical Holley rebuild kit will work for it. This works for various other carburetors as well. So it covers, I think, like 3 different carburetors from Holley. So I think it covers the 4150, the 4160, and there's another one in there, I think. But you can still pick these up at the parts store, readily available right on the shelf for 50 bucks. So, for guys that say carburetors are unreliable, keep that in mind. You can almost go to any parts store and still get service parts for most of your carburetors that are on your cars, whether it be this Proform, which is based on a Holley 4150, or the Edelbrock, which is based on a Carter AFB. So, again, basic. I usually carry, this is like my track box for carburetor stuff. I got what's left of a rebuild kit, which has some extra needle and seats, extra gaskets. I got cam pumps for tuning. Look at that. I even got a little advanced curve spring in there. There's a 50cc accelerator pump in there with my old floats. I got the notch ones for jet extensions. This is, oh, I've been looking for this. Look at that. That's for my AFR, so I can hook a laptop to it. Been looking for that. So, got an assortment of jets here. Basic stuff. Fuel bowl gaskets. If you make enough jet changes, you will need to replace these. So I got at least one kit in there. Stuff like that. So I'm going to take this apart, and then when I take it apart, I'll go through a couple things with you. I could make a rebuild video, but these carburetors are very simple, and once I get it apart, you guys are going to see there's not a whole lot to it. So I'll just break it down for you real fast. You remove this double feed line, which this is your common like Spectra AutoZone feed line. I don't really like these, but that's what this carburetor had. You remove these, and then you remove the 4 screws to remove the bowl. Got here. You remove that first, and then that disassembles the metering block, the fuel bowl on each end, and then you flip it over. I think this carburetor actually still has fuel in it. You remove these 6 screws, and then the base plate comes apart from the main body. Obviously, along with that, you got to remove some items like the choke. And on this one, we're not going to go too in depth and actually disassemble the throttle shafts and stuff like that, because this is a fairly new carburetor. It just ran like crap. Somebody was in there before, I think, and we're just going to kind of set this back to where it should be. But we are going to take apart the pump diaphragms, make sure that they're not torn. We got new ones if need be. We're going to replace as needed. So we're going to replace seals. The main part here is to go through the carburetor, degunk it, make sure everything's good. We're going to set the float level on a bench. There's a procedure for that to get a base float level. But again, you always still want to check it and make sure that you see this line, and that's the design of the fuel bowl. That's actually about where your fuel float level should be. So when you adjust the needle and seat for the float adjustment, because the needle and seat goes in here and then it adjusts your float, you want the fuel level to be in here. On the rear one, you might want it a little high if you're doing racing, because when the car goes up, the fuel's going to slosh back. You want the fuel in the bowl to be happy. So now the only downside of that is that if you set them a little high around turns, the fuel is going to come out of the vent and it's going to choke the car out with too much fuel. I have similar problems with that, but I added a vent crossover so that that doesn't happen. Race car stuff. This is for a street car. I think the float level on this, and the nice thing is that this choke assembly comes off and it's its own little assembly. This choke comes off and it bolts right on here, and then you can see it got zip tied open. I think we did that when we were trying to break in the engine, but I didn't like this carburetor, so I put my Edelbrock on there for braking, and then it was ran like that for a while. But I'm going to get this going and get it ready. So we'll follow it up once I get it apart, and I'll show you guys some of the guts, how really basic this is. So hang on. All right, so I got the carburetor apart, and as I told you, I'm going to kind of go through it with you guys and show you what is what as far as the disassembly and then what we're going to go through. This is carburetor parts cleaner. It's a little tank, super strong stuff. I have gloves. I got a couple of paint cups just for some of these smaller parts for now. I like to organize everything in one of these catch containers. I get rid of everything that's garbage, but before I start throwing anything else away, separate everything. So this is our base plate. It's got 2 guide pins. This big vacuum port, usually for your power brakes, always goes towards the back of the carburetor. And then also what you can reference is the side that the choke goes on. If it's got a choke, it's going to have this adjustment here for the cam on the choke. So keep that in mind. Obviously, you can use linkage parts for relations. So this is your air horn for the choke. You know where the choke goes. You know where your linkage goes. You know that the front half or facing the car of the carburetor, this is going to be your linkage on the primary side, secondary side, yada, yada, yada. So you got your air bleeds. You got low speed, high speed air bleeds. Then you got your fuel bowls, which I'd mentioned somebody was probably in there before. And I'm going to assume so because usually these carburetors I don't believe come with jet extensions. I'm not 100% sure the last one that was from Quick Fuel, which by the way, QFT, Quick Fuel Technologies, that's who makes this carburetor from Proform. It's a 650. So it's got the vent whistles, real nice metering plates. We're going to make sure that the power valves we are going to be replacing them with are correct. It's got jet extensions and the notched floats, which I think somebody may have been trying to cure a bog. Usually that's what people think. For cars that launch really hard, sometimes the fuel in the bowl goes all the way towards the back on the rear bowls, and it gets away from the jet. So the jet extensions bring the fuel jet into the... So if you can imagine, these are jet extensions. They extend the jet further out. And if you can envision this, okay, you're putting the jet way farther into the back of the bowl. So when the car launches and the back of the carburetor does this, the jet stays in the fuel. So this is usually a modification. I don't know if these carburetors came like this, to be honest with you. The last one I had did not have the jet extensions, but it's been a while. So for now, I'm just going to check the jet sizes for this carburetor. So I'm going to look it up and see what it came equipped with and make sure that it's got the correct jets, so that at least we're setting it up to what it came with out of the box. So we're going to go ahead, clean all these passages, the emulsion passages, the air bleed passages. So everything will be nice and clean. We're just going to blow it out with a little bit of brake cleaner, compressed air. We're going to replace the needle and seat. I'm going to bench set the floats. I talked about the accelerator pumps and checking them. A quick and easy way to check them is to cover the hole and try to pump it. It pumps real easy with nothing plugging it. And then of course you hear that? With my finger over it, it creates pressure. So yeah, so those are good. I checked both. Obviously it's hard to do it with one hand, but they're good. The choke, there's not much to the choke that can go wrong. It's just a element spring in there that gets hot and you adjust it. The choke is its own deal to choke the engine out while it's cold until it gets warm and the flap opens up all the way due to the spring heating up and moving. And then a couple of things that I'm going to mention now is I'm not the end-all be-all of carburetors. I have learned through trial and error. I have been taught by people, mainly like over the phone, people that I trust, a lot of the drivability issues that people have sometimes, especially like off idle, where they think it's a bog, a lot of times it's a lean condition. There is a strict relation between engine timing, fuel shot, and that whole curve where they kind of intersect, and it's a magic moment where it all comes together. It seems really complicated. It's really not. I can tell you that I know this because I've experienced it on both ends of the spectrum. I had a carburetor on this engine that worked great. I changed the distributor, and obviously I got my reference guide. It's a great book. But I had a Holley 750 double pumper, box stock. It had a really bad bog off the line, but ran great everywhere else. So the pink pump cam for Holley's is the only one you can flip upside down, and it really gives an aggressive fuel shot. So I talked to my buddy, he told me to flip it upside down. Bog is gone. Car ran great. I decided to get a new distributor. A friend of mine had one. He let me have it. It's a DUI HEI. And man, this thing started spitting and popping as soon as I floored it. Well, I'm like, what changed? So I took the distributor apart and I looked at the springs, and it had some insanely stiff springs in there. So it wasn't enough timing for the amount of fuel and air being drawn into the engine. So this thing was just, the spark was coming in too late for all the fuel, and it caused all kinds of issues. So those two things for drivability are crucial, but they're very basic to set up. Usually you tailor your curve for your fuel and vice versa. It's a little bit of give and take. Again, I've learned it the hard way. I've learned it, the only way I've learned is hands-on, and I'll explain to you guys the very basics that I know. Obviously, these carburetors are very simple. I think people are just sometimes intimidated by them, but the best thing I ever did was buy an AFR gauge and tune with that, and it explained to me everything that was happening. If you can put your RPM to your engine combination and your car and what it's doing and where it's at, that will tell you what circuit is working. And your AFR is going to tell you in what direction to go with that circuit. So if you're tooling around town and you're just maybe cruising at 2,000 RPM, if you got say a 390 gear, your engine isn't even working. It's a low load, low velocity thing. And so you know what circuit to adjust if that's the problem. The primary jets or the secondary jets. Are you on the secondaries yet? You got to figure out where your throttle body, your positioning for your throttle plates are, and where the secondaries kick in, because you got on this one, you got that much more opening before the secondaries are even open. So most of the time, you're cruising on the primaries until you really crack it. And you know that if you're cruising at low speeds and you're not too much on the throttle, you got to worry about the primary side. If you got problems at wide open throttle, you got to check the secondary side, but also the primary side, because once everything is working together, they are one-to-one. They aren't split. So there's a little bit of going back and forth, but these carburetors are super simple to take apart and work on. And the only thing that sucks is draining the fuel, but it's basic. So hopefully that helps you guys. We're going to get at it. We're going to start cleaning some of this stuff up, and then I'll follow it up here partway through when I show you some of the stuff if I see anything bad. All right, so I'm partway through cleaning stuff up. Carburetor's in pretty good shape overall, but this needle and seat was sticking. I did manage to clean it up, but I went ahead and replaced it because our rebuild kit has one. But now, this needle and seat, right, the float hits up on it, right, and it opens. So if the float is low, it's going to let fuel in, and if it's where it needs to be, this stays closed and does not allow fuel. So if it gets low and it gets stuck and the fuel bowl can't rise up, this thing's going to continuously just dump fuel thinking that it's low, and it causes all kinds of drivability issues, and it floods over and whatnot. The float won't actually look like it's high, but it's going to get wedged because this valve here is wedged, and this is what adjusts your float. When it bottoms out, it adjusts it. So we had a flooding over issue, and that would explain it. When I took this out, it had a bunch of crap on the body of it, and the bowl itself was dirty, so I cleaned it all up. And this was probably the flooding over issue. But I replaced the one that was in there. This is the one I took out, even though I cleaned it up. We're just going to go ahead and replace it because we got it in our kit. So look out for that, guys. One thing to look for. Figure I'd bring that up. Usually when these are severely worn out, there will be like a little line on the Teflon tip of them. Don't know how well you guys are going to see it, but there's a black Teflon tip in there. And when they've been bad for a while, they tend to wear out that Teflon. So that's a quick little tip there. So I just took the secondary side needle and seat, and look at all that crud in there. If you have inadequate fuel filtration, it'll definitely kill your needle and seat. So clearly I think all of the drivability issues lie within here on this carburetor. That's how it came out. It's pretty dirty. You got to keep in mind that O-ring seals it from the O-ring up. So everything in the fuel, everything underneath it is where it would be flowing in the fuel system. So pretty damn dirty. But yeah, we're going to replace this one as well. Just wanted to show you guys what that looked like. And the actual needle and seat itself, as I moved it around, felt really gritty. So there's a lot of crud in there. So don't cheap out on fuel filters. Alright, so here's another little tip. You got various base plate gaskets, right? I got them all kind of sprawled out right here. You got different holes, right? So quick way to rule this out is grab your old one, you lay it over and make sure that all your holes line up and that there is no voids. So it's like a mirror image of what it should be. You grab one that isn't it, so I'm going to set this one aside because that's our good one. This is our original one. So let's say we pick one that looks very similar. There's a couple here. This is not, this is very different. So this one right away, it's a no-go. This one's very different right away, no-go. But this one almost looks the same. But you lay these up next to each other. And you could tell there's a misalignment issue on the bores. So that one is going to be a no-go. But this one works out good. So now you guys know. And this one flew over here, so I got to grab it. You could tell that these primary bores are much smaller. So this is for a smaller carburetor, but it could easily fool you. So always check, you know. This one's very deceiving too. This one's got almost the same holes. Actually, this is the same one. God damn it. You could tell right here. These two holes, these gaskets almost look identical. But these two set of holes here, that one's straight across. These follow the opening of the throttle bore. That's the one we need for this one. So that's that little tip. This is why I don't throw anything away until I am ready to put things back together so I can compare them, because there is some variances sometimes. So I'm going to set these aside because I don't need these. Those are no good to us. So there you go, guys. Alright, yet another tip. I'm putting the base plate on the main body, and this is a really good point because, again, I didn't set back any settings as far as like the fast idle. You could tell the primaries are cracked. You could see there's a fair amount of daylight. And let me see if I can get this right for you guys. So you see those little slots in there? Those are the idle transfer slots. If you expose too much of those, you get a super rich idle mixture. So you could see you're exposing a lot of it. That's going to allow excessive amount of fuel at idle into the engine. A lot of guys either don't study or don't read, and you can open these secondary throttle plates through this screw on most Holley carburetors or Holley style carburetors. The first thing I do when I get one of these is I close up the primary and I crack open the secondaries just a little bit, right? just to where I feel that's going to be sufficient, and then I adjust the primary side for the fast idle, because guess what? If you didn't crack these and you're going too far on the primaries, then you're going to have to take carburetor back off and do this. This is hard to do on the car, unless you have some low pro side ratchets, which I have, but it's still hard to see. This is easy to do on the bench, as you can see the slot and how much you're exposing of it. So if you guys get a brand new carburetor, or you're rebuilding it, before you put it on, crack the secondaries open a little bit through the screw so that you're not exposing too much of this and you get an overly rich idle mixture as it's thinking that it's transitioning from one circuit to the other, dumping excessive fuel, I believe. Either way, that is a common issue with that. So, all right, so I'm going to show you guys, according to Holly, the floats should be bench set with the top surface of the float parallel to the top of the bowl. So we got this inverted. This is how it's supposed to go in. The float rises. I can't show you, but the float rises and then it stops on that adjustment. So this is mimicking like where this would top out. Obviously, we have no fuel in there, so we can't tell. But the way that they tell you to do it is this surface of the bowl parallel to this surface. So this would be the top of the float, top of the bowl, for a bench setting. Now, obviously, you still have to check this with the engine running. If you have the glass sight, it's nice because you don't have to worry about trickling the fuel out like I do on mine, because mine does not have the glass sights. I got the old brass plugs that you got to unscrew out, and then you got to let the fuel trickle out. That's how you check fuel float level. And you know, it should be, again, I mentioned it earlier, those two little lines there, it's not just a cool little casting, that's actually the middle of the sight plug. That's where it needs to be. So there you guys go. That's your bench setting. And the last thing, I'm going to put this together, and then we're going to readjust the accelerator pump override. That's easy to do. And then I won't bore you guys with the choke stuff because that's pretty straightforward. This thing's coming along pretty fast. And of course, my air compressor kicks on. So, all right, the carburetor's back together. I hate choke linkage, but it's on. Everything's good. I set all of the idle mixture screws to a 1.5 turns, which is roughly what they recommend out of the box. I still got to put our fitting adapters on, but that doesn't really matter right now. So I was talking about the pump cam override, right? So most guys screw this up. So essentially, this diaphragm in here is rubber. If you overextend it, you rip it, and it won't push fuel through the passage. So what you have to do is you have to hold the linkage at wide open throttle, and then make sure that you could slip a feeler gauge in between the bottom of this screw and this pawl here, right? I'm trying to find the right one because I'll be honest with you, this is hard with, ooh, my stomach's rumbling. Either dinner's not agreeing with me or I'm hungry again. But hold on, beer with me guys here. Beer? Beer sounds good, but it's Monday. We have standards here. So, all right. So, with the carburetor cranked over all the way to wide open throttle, you should be able to slip this feeler gauge in there, which you should be able to slip it through. And then you see, watch that arm. See how it decompressed? You should be able to get a little compression out of it between 15 and 20 thou. Mine's not tight. There is a nasty burr on this arm. You can see it on this side. And it's not going to affect the performance, but you could see that like casting flaw in there. I tried filing it down, but it still didn't make for very good. So do not check this setting at idle. You have to do this on the bench or on the car. You have to open up the throttle all the way, hold it in place, be able to slip your feeler gauge in there to check for that clearance. So that should be between 15 and 20 thou. So this thing's pretty good. All the jets are set in there. Everything's right. Idle mixture screws, float level, pretty much like it came out of the box. So again, I don't know if I mentioned this, but you see I scribed an F front to front. Some of these do have two what you call it, god damn it, I can't think of the name right now, but the power valve. Some of them just have one on the primary side, some of them don't have any on the secondary side. Easy to screw up because these will fit themselves. So I marked it front, the rear, no need for it because no marks. So there you go, guys. Hope that helps somebody. This is all set and it'll be on its way.